Today's video is about how you can start a biotech company, being an academician working in a university or institute. So, let's say you worked on a certain idea or certain technology for, uh, 5 or 10 or 10 years, or maybe less than that also, and somehow you reach at a certain point where you think that the whole idea and the technology that you had developed has a good potential of commercialization. Now the question is how you can start your own company, or at least how you can make the technology the commercial version of the technology, how we can do that, being an academician. So the video is about that. And before I start, I want to say that because the content of the video is basically inspired by reading some paper which are mostly, I am assuming, is based on the authors are from USA, so they have their own context to that the writings. So for Indian context, of course, certain extra study is needed about lots of legal matter, but I think various overall stretch of thing, overall steps are more or less will be same. So yeah, maybe this will be helpful for you. So let's start. So first thing that we need to understand is that when we are starting a company or a startup, especially in high-tech industrial environment, this to start with, it was always built around a certain technology, unique innovation, etc., etc. It doesn't go full-fledged just from the day one, and there are various reasons for that. And I believe different from other industry, high-tech industry, any kind of high-tech industries are very much segmented. Like, what do you mean by that segmented means that one factory or one company is dedicated in only one thing, and it was surviving by creating that value by importing some raw material. Not raw material here doesn't mean totally raw material, but rather it can be output from other industry, and then the product that it creates that has a higher value, and that's how it survives initially. And as the time goes on, then it diversifies its business model and then creates more patent and grows itself. So that's how a life cycle of any biotech industry or any high-tech industry is. That's my belief, and that belief is, of course, I'm not saying it is totally correct, but that is what I understood is about the whole thing. Now when you make a decision that this is this particular research, or this your whatever you had done the research last 5 or 10 or 15 year, maybe you think that whole thing can be packaged in a commercialized way, and there is a potential, then still you need to ask very crucial question that and not just question, but based on that question you want to do a separate kind of research which will be different from academic or the research that you are doing in the lab, which is mostly about market research and patent research sort of thing. So to be specific, you want to do an honest and extensive analysis of commercial potential of the idea or the technology that you are thinking or perceiving. And this is something called freedom to operate search, which means basically that you go on searching various patents and try to see that for example, for using your technology, if you want to create a end user product, whether that process of making that product infringes on other patent or not. And there are a lot of technical details, so I'll not go into that, but just remember this particular term, freedom to operate search, FTO search. This is important. Next stage that you want to do is way more different than that you are doing in the lab, which is called potential market need and size of your product. This is little bit different, and you may not be the right person to do that, so you may want to take some help from other person. So we'll talk about that thing later. Take help of technology transfer office. Now TTO is a concept that I think in Indian universities it's not really very popular, or I mean depending on which university you're working, you may not have TTO office. But then under the law of the land or the Indian government law, whatever you do, research that you do in your lab, academic institution, that are bound to be patented under university rather than you actually. So this is, I think you know that, and you will be the inventor actually. So there are a lot of legal matter that you want to have to understand. And TTO is something which is, as I discussed in the previous video also, it is basically an entity that is inside the academic environment, which helps the professors to file patent and licensing the existing patented technology, etc., etc. So TTO may help you, but if it doesn't help you, then you can outsource it. But then there also you need to see what are the legal matter in what are the laws of your institution and laws of government law also, so yeah. Now what will happen if your university doesn't have a TTO, or the TTO doesn't have the staffs to do the FTO and the market research and all this thing? Because a lot of Indian university, they are not that, maybe now they are doing a lot of things, but then mostly they had been developed it or started as a teaching university, and now they are expanding maybe. So TTO office may not have the staffs to do the particular FTO and market research and all these things. So in that case, you can actually outsource that. That means you can hire a consultancy firm, like, not means you can outsource it, as a project that you want to do. But then the question is how you can do that in the framework of the institution rules and the government rules also, because those two rules are important, because we don't want to infringe on do anything illegal, because this is something, a topic which is still, I will say, new in our environment, and I am very sure that any kind of endeavor like this will draw a lot of attention in our colleagues, so which is normal actually. So you want to be very sure that you are not doing anything illegal unknowingly, of course, because I guess any professor or any person who is basically professor in institute, who is highly educated, so they are never that kind of a person to do such thing. But sometimes what happens that you do thing which basically means unknowingly you are breaking some rule, which should not be the case, because it can trouble you in future. So so a lot of things, especially market research, you can actually do hire some business school student and they can do that stuff. So this, I think, is very much is possible within the framework of the academic environment, because we have a lot of project students and they have to do their projects. So better thing is they do something which is valuable, but FTO is something maybe you can learn it, but I'm not really sure about that. Now in a lot of university or institutes, they have entrepreneurship centers, not in the exact name of entrepreneurship or something like that, in some sense they have research park or something etc etc. Because what happens is in Western universities they have a concept of TTO, but in Indian environment TTO model may not have been adopted in every place. So you have to understand that in your particular university which organization, not organization, but which centers are responsible for this task actually. So now finally you also want to know that whether uh, I mean it can happen that there is a TTO in your university and they are not really interested. They think that the patent that or the technology that you want to commercialize doesn't have the future for or doesn't have the potential. So in that case you are still uh, okay to go, I mean if you confident enough, and in that case you have to go through a lot of legal matter, because what happens is that in that case the natural framework is that the institute will apply for, not apply but at least own the patent. But in this case legal matter will be different, so you may want to check those detail and yeah. Now this is a very important step, that considering the fact that the TTO or similar kind of entity in your university had given you the go signal. Then the question is what kind of role that you want to take in the newly going to form company or startup. And so this decision is very crucial, because even if you are an inventor, or you think that you know you are the inventor of the technology, or the patent, or yeah, but still you need to understand that you may not have the right kind of experience to build a business around it. And in that case someone, other enable person or capable person are should be the CEO, not you. And in fact a lot of institute do not like their employee to be working in a business outside it. And especially in India, I don't really know too much about this thing, the law, what the law says, law of the university and law of the government. And of course other role are available for you, and I think more importantly and lucrative role will be like member of scientific advisory board, which is I think um, is more of a relaxed role that you can be in. You can be that, you can take that role, and you can see the whole process and give your input, uh, and it can be a good learning experience also, because for your future, because you may want to do something on your own in future. So you can learn the executive process and business process on all this thing, being a member of the committee. Now very important thing is that even to be a member of the committee, you need some sort of legal agreement with the university, that because you are a professor in university, and basically you are employed in that. And the question is whether dual employment is possible or not. And so for this matter I am not really sure about what Indian law says, because I remember that in when I was doing my PhD in IIT Bombay, so I never saw any professor taking a double sort of role. It can be sabbatical, so yeah, so that is possible. You can take 1 year sabbatical and be or assume a certain role in newly forming company or startup. So that is, I think, is possible, because I saw, I mean, yeah, I mean that is very much possible. But I'm not sure about the dual employment, because in Western countries they have, I think, a lot of professor have dual what is this called, dual employment, like in their they have contract with two university or one university or one company, etc., etc. These are all possible. And but what is equivalent thing in India, with if that is not the case, but then what is equivalent option, I am not really sure about that. So I myself want to know in future about this. Now, very important thing before going or before doing the forming the company, what whose will be the founding member or the core team, and in that case TTO can have a good role to play, because they may have good connection with various capable persons, so they may want to suggest that. And finally, of course, we all know that how our PhDs and postdocs, those people are, how important they are, because what research that we do, we may have a vision, but we don't have the human capital to implement that within a, let's say, 5 or 10 years. So we have PhD, postdoc, and they are doing this laborious task and all that. And with time, especially PhD and postdoc, they gain so much knowledge and skill, very importantly, those skills, and they may become very crucial potential person to be the founding member of the company, which is very much possible. And so they are also viable options. Now the official foundation part. First step is how do you want to what will be the name of your company or startup. I say that it is your company or something like that, but then remember that this is depends on the structure that you are forming, or structure under you are forming the company. Like it can be C corporation or LLC, and I don't know whether C corporation is a term related to Indian law, because I think it's the USA thing, but LLC is certainly a term for Indian context, or valid for Indian context. So basically these are somehow certain structure, or if you register your company or startup, or depending on this structure, then as a founder you are different from the company. Like, if there is something bad happen with the company, not bad, but various legal thing, then you will not be dragged along that. So that's the point. So, and this is very important, any kind of corporation. Now, another important thing is how you divide the equity between founder. Here also you need to understand that you may think that you are the founder, you are the main person because you are the inventor and etc, etc. But remember that the commercialization step and all this thing will need a lot of expertise, and many times inventions are actually easy, but rather commercialization and that manufacturing and all this thing, and solving the supply chain problem, etc, etc, marketing, these are equally important. A lot of big businesses are, a lot of innovative technologies are doesn't see the daylight of commercialization because wrong decision in these processes. So you want to back yourself from that mind frame that you are the main person. So from there you can or your group of founder, and then of course the university will take some equity also. So yeah, so that will be always the case. Yeah. And finally, that of course after hiring the valuable team, not just the founder but the skillful person who can implement the step-by-step process of commercialization, after hiring them, you may want to, not may, but I guess you certainly want them to work together in a physical space, not just online, because that's not a good idea. So you want to hire a space, office space. And in India actually we have, if you are from a like from IITs and all this thing, they have this thing called research park and all this thing. And I believe that research parks are believed to be serve that particular purpose, actually, to provide you that office space, to do all the work, not maybe the factory or the garage sort of thing, like where you do the R&D, etc., which may need some separate space. But certainly the office space are maybe available in research park, or maybe, and if not, then you need to hire or you need to rent some place, yeah. Now, the important step, how you can raise your funds and all this thing. So considering you are the CEO of the company or the main person, so you have to convince the investor to invest in your company. Now, so basically this will be some sort of presentation that you have to give it to them, and this particular presentation will be totally different from the presentation that you may give in a conference, and etc, etc. So a lot of aspect that you need to understand here, that the investors may not be the science person, so you may want to present your technology or your work in a totally different way. You may want to show that within 1 year how much you are expecting the gain of the companies, because a lot of investors maybe want to invest and then they want to get the profit and leave it, leave the stage. So that can happen. So it's a totally different scenario, and you may want to practice it in a repeatedly, so that you can pitch it correctly. And the question of what are the different sources of funding, so I think it's not like you so first of all, the funding can be of different kind. One is dilute and non-dilute. So non-dilute means basically where you don't have to get sell the equity and etc, etc. Dilute means you have to sell the equity and sell the share, maybe. Of course, in the foundation stage there will be no share, maybe. So okay, so I'm not really sure about this thing, but yeah, so there are a lot of sources of funding. So one can be the government funds like Startup India, etc, etc. So I'm not really sure those Startup India will be a right choice, because they may have some criteria, etc, etc. But I think nowadays government is also helping. I remember that in ISI Kolkata, in the assistant professor's job application itself, like job description itself, they had provided this thing that in first 2 or 3 years they will provide a certain amount of money for the startup. So that it shows that the government also are more focused on doing this kind of thing. So you will find money, I believe, that if you can provide the correct reasoning and all this thing. And yeah, so that's all about this slide. Now some final notes, final thought that I want to share here. Although it may seem that in the media, it may seem that the money is everywhere if you can put forward a good idea in all this thing, but it may not be true in reality. So you have to do very much hard work to really get that initial money that you are planning to, the initial fund. And of course you can best way will be to talk to the colleagues who may had the similar kind of experience. Yeah, and finally I also want to add that there are a lot of legal matters that you may want to solve in future, especially because what happens is that the technology that you are starting, that you're using to start a company, that is built it on or developed it in the academic environment, and by default those are owned by institution. Of course, the institution will have a certain equity in your startup or company, but still there will be a lot of legal matter, and for that you may not be the right person to do it on your own. So in future you may want to hire certain attorney, patent attorney or etc etc, who may had special experience in this kind of dealing with this kind of matter. Because what happens is that there can be a lot of legal issue. What you ideally want is like, okay, so that patent or that technology is there and it had some equity, and company get equity for institution get equity for that. But then after founding a company, then you want to work into that company itself, not in the lab. Because then if you want to carry on doing your further research in the lab, then things can be different. So because then the new thing that you worked on and you want to patent it, that cannot be patented under the company, because that's the ideal thing. New patent should be under the company. So yeah, a lot of difficult matter can come. So after a certain success of the company, certain amount of success, then you may want to hire some legal matter expert and all this thing. Now this is a particular list that I'm showing you in the figure, and so which basically gives you more of a detailed to-do list in the step by step to form your company or startup. And a lot of things doesn't need to be done in sequence, but or maybe some part of it can be ignored depending on the context of thing, the type of idea or technology. But this is more of an exhaustive list of things that to look forward, and maybe the legal part can wait or depending on the context. But yeah, but I think starting with the idea, then of course the fundraising and and teams and all these things, those are the essential steps that you want to follow one by one. Finally, that I want to acknowledge the particular paper from where I draw off the contents. And that's it all about the video, and see you in the next week. Thank you. And if you like the video, please subscribe to the channel. Thank you. Bye. See you in the next week.